Welcome, gentlemen, to the Week 2 MFFL review. I am your commissioner, and I lost, so I'm crabby. But that's okay, because first thing we're going to do is look at the standings. And guess what? My entire division lost this week. Yes. We got War Pigs 1-1, Bourbonites 1-1, Broad Street Bullies, and Biohazards. Two of the biggest shit talkers in the league, both at 0-2. Sorry, dudes. We got the AAC with the Sioux, the defending champion, 2-0, no surprise. Everybody else at 1-1. We got the PPC with the Untouchables and Bionic Commandos at 2-0, and the Lead Dogs at 1-1, and Fury at 0-2. So yeah, it's super early. It doesn't really matter, but pretty interesting start. So let's get right into it here and go into the scoring and what happened in the games this week. The first game is the Biohazards and Bad Company. There are a lot of close games this week. In fact, most of them were. This was no exception. We got Biohazards 80, Bad Company 83. And this really came down to Monday Night Football. And I think Jeremy Langford was Biohazard, and he was for about 2 seconds a War Pig last year, and he was a lead dog. And he's been thrown all over the league. He ended up with 8 points, and that was enough to push Bad Company over the Biohazards. That's not a great total, but it was enough for this matchup. Looking at the rest of the winning Bad Company team, Jameis Winston, 13, not good. C.J. Anderson, another good game with 14. DeAndre Hopkins blew up, 17. That dude just keeps doing it with random quarterbacks. So what has he had, like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 in the last 2 years? Julio Jones, great game with 16. Ebron looked pretty good. Looked like he was hurt again. I don't know what's up with that dude. I only had 5, and then you get kicker and defense, whatever. Biohazards, Kirk Cousins. For some reason, Biohazards owner Tim Kroll is enamored with this guy. I don't think he really is. It's just that he's got him. But he had 20, so that's a good game. But if you watch the game, he doesn't look good. And apparently there's shit talking in the Redskins locker room already. My guess is Deshaun Jackson, because he just talks shit about everyone. That wouldn't surprise me. But so I don't know what's going to end up happening with him. But in the meantime, he got 20, so that's pretty good. Ezekiel Elliott, good game, 14 points. David Johnson, 13. Alan Hearns and Tajay Sharp at the wide receiver spot. That's the brutal part of this team so far, is the receiving core. 9 points combined for the receivers isn't going to cut it. Although he did get 11 from Clive Walford, who sounds like he should be serving Grey Poupon at lunch, but 11 points. So that's pretty good. Let's look on the bench here. And so here's the big difference. This is a huge difference. On the bench for the Biohazards, who lost by 3, we have 37 points combined for Jarvis Landry and Stephon Diggs at wide receiver. Now, obviously, you're not going to pick the right guy every week. Shit happens. Stephon Diggs, I'm going to guess, is going to end up in the starting spot for the Biohazards in weeks to come here. Golden Tate, did he get hurt? I'm not looking it up. 1 point? Yeah. Sammy Watkins, 2 points. He was banged up. So the big difference there is Diggs and Landry. I'm going to guess that both those receivers are going to get put in the starting week for next week. We'll see. On the bench for Bad Company, 15 from Ryan Matthews on the bench was the only standout. That would have just got him more of a victory, but I don't think either one of those would have made a difference starting wise. All right, so let's go to the Bullies and the Cartel. Cartel with 92. Big, big total there, especially considering Jonathan Stewart got hurt very early in the game versus San Francisco. Ended up with 0 points. So he's got a 0 spot from a starting running back, and I'm pretty confident that was like the first pick in the first round for the Cartel. Um, Injured, but look at these numbers. Derek Carr, 24 points. D'Angelo Williams, 18 points. Eric Decker, 18 points. You're welcome. That's that former War Pig. Alshon Jeffrey, 9. Greg Olson, 18. And if you saw that Carolina game, who gets a long bomb to a tight end? And it wasn't even a long bomb. The dude just ran for 75 yards. Ridiculous. And then kicker and defense, grand total of 92. Ends up being the Bullies. Bullies were pretty stoked about Carson Wentz for some reason. Ends up with 12 points. So not exactly asked to do a lot. 12 points for Carson Wentz. Jeremy Hill with 5. Picked the wrong Cincinnati running back that game. Latavius Murray with 15 is good. Kelvin Benjamin blew up again. That dude is surprising everyone how good he's played the first 2 weeks. Jordan Matthews, 7. Gary Barnidge, 3. And he had a kicker this week that actually played. But it wasn't enough to get 10 and 10 out of kicker and defense. As the Bullies fall there. On the bench, like I said, Giovanni Bernard for the losers had 17. Sub that out, carry the 1. Yeah, that makes the difference. You picked the wrong Cincinnati running back. That was a victory. Or you throw in Corey Coleman from Cleveland, and really, why would you? 22 points on the bench. Yeah. The winning Cartel also had 12 more points on the bench from Matt Jones. Obviously, you weren't going to start him, thinking Jonathan Stewart would have been fine. Rookie Sterling Shepard with 11. Pretty sure another rookie, Tyrell Williams from San Diego with 12. So a pretty good, strong week across the board for the Cartel. We'll go to War Pigs at the Commandos. And the losing, damn it, War Pigs. Boy, this came right down to it. Roethlisberger with 23 blew up. Doug Martin got hurt. Fucking in-game injuries, man. Doug Martin ends up with 2 because of the injury mostly. Spencer Ware with 9, decent considering. Des Bryant with 10, decent. Jordan Reed with only 7. And then you get kicker and defense. The big one was Jordy Nelson. And obviously a lot of you weren't watching this game necessarily live if you didn't have any players or you didn't care about Green Bay at Minnesota, but Jordy Nelson was about 2 steps away from scoring on his last receiving pass, which would have won the War Pigs the game. So that really sucked. Another 20 yards. Anyway. War Pigs bench, nothing really to speak of. 10 for Devontae Parker. Nice to see him on the field. And that was pretty much it. Christine Michael might get some play now that Rawls went down. We'll see. The winning Commandos won by 2. Not on the strength. How did he win? Delaney Walker, I guess. Drew Brees had 14. Not that good for a quarterback. Isaiah Crowell, that's the difference. Isaiah Crowell, pretty sure had like a 70-yard rush for a touchdown, something like that. 20 points. Huge day. Mark Ingram does nothing. Amari Cooper only had 7. Macklin had 6. Delaney Walker had 14 versus the Lions. Should have saw that coming. Big day for the kicker with 11. So yeah, it's a close game and just some random high totals for both teams. On the bench, Vance McDonald had another long tight end reception for a touchdown for a tight end. Really, nobody else did anything. Let's go to Bourbonites at Lead Dogs. You might want to call this an upset. I have a feeling Rod would disagree with you. Let's look at the winners, one by 1 point here. Carson Palmer with 24, so he picked the right quarterback. Gimpy Russell Wilson on the bench, didn't do much. 24 for Carson Palmer. Amir Abdullah, 3 points. Did he get hurt too? Or does he just suck? The surprise, Tevin Coleman, back up in Atlanta. 12 points. Rushing touchdown, 46 rushing yards, 25 receiving yards. Looked better than, or got more play anyway, I don't know, than his counterpart in Atlanta. So pretty interesting. Victor Cruz looked pretty good, 9 points. Michael Floyd, maybe should have kept Fitzgerald there instead of Michael Floyd. Jason Witten didn't do much. Brandon McManus, usually don't want to mention the kicker, specifically 14 points, huge in this matchup. On the bench, really nothing. Bourbonites in the loss, 24 for Blake Bortles, so you're matching quarterbacks there. Another good game for Melvin Gordon with 17. Eddie Lacy, 5 points. Packers look like shit, didn't they? I don't understand. Maybe Minnesota's defense is just that good. Doug Baldwin, did he get hurt too? I don't know. So many injuries. But Russell Wilson, is banged up. Half that team is hurt. He ends up with 2. Odell Beckham, not much with 8. Julius Thomas with 7. And then you get kicker and defense. Very close game, and the lead dogs pull it off. Let's see. Kielbasa Kings at the Untouchables. Another very low score here for the losing team. This is a tough matchup. Andrew Luck. If you saw some of this game, his offensive line sucks. One of his best receivers, who was a war pig, of course, got hurt. Moncrief, so that didn't help. So playing the best defense in football, he only ends up with 13. That's really not surprising. Kings have no quarterback backup right now, so there was no option there. Lamar Miller with 9, underwhelming, although that's a good Houston. Oh, no, he is a Houston. They're playing Kansas City. Well, they have a good defense, too. DeMarco Murray with 13. Larry Fitzgerald picked up off the waivers after being dropped by the lead dogs, surprisingly, with 14. Allen Robinson didn't do much. Nobody really did much. You're looking at a couple guys showing up, and that's it for the Kings. And on the bench, not a lot of options. Marvin Jones at 11. Torrey Smith, surprising 11. Martellus Bennett, that's the big one. It wouldn't have made a difference, though. Well, let's see. 14. No, it wouldn't have made a difference. Martellus Bennett had 17 on the bench for the Kings, but it still wouldn't have got him the win. And then the winning Untouchables. Another good week, 87 points. Stafford, 17 is pretty good. Forte is the big blow-up. 3 rushing touchdowns and 100 yards, 28 points. Pretty nice. McCoy with 8. Evans with 13 as well. A.J. Green did nothing against Pittsburgh. That game was just rainy the whole time, but still. I mean, he blew up in week 1, week 2, did nothing. Kelsey with almost nothing, and then you get kicker and defense. On the bench, Dak Prescott, 17. Mike Wallace, surprising 16 points. Mostly short touchdowns, which is different for him. Yeah, that was pretty interesting. And the other thing interesting here was Devontae Freeman, who I mentioned getting outplayed by the lead dogs, Tevin Coleman, benched by the Untouchables. This is the most expensive running back in the league. I'm not saying it was the wrong move. I'm saying it's just interesting. He only ends up with 9 points. Only 1 more point than McCoy anyway, so that wouldn't have made any difference. It's interesting. You get Mike Wallace, again, like I said, 2 short receiving touchdowns, but 16 points. So yeah, another good win for the Untouchables. Let's go to the Sioux and the Fury. And the champ goes 2-0. Again, a huge game from Cam Newton. Looked kind of rough for a while versus San Francisco, and then they just blew up. Ends up with 33 points. Huge number. LeGarrette Blount, 18. Huge number. Again, surprising. Gurley, 6 points. That team sucks. And they beat Seattle. That's crazy. But Gurley was 6 points. Done nothing the first 2 weeks. Antonio Brown, another 3. Oops, sorry about that. That's Jeff Kennedy. I'm going to have to mute him. Sorry, Jeff. I don't know what that guy wants. Probably yell at me for doing the video in the morning. Let's see. Let's do, yeah, Antonio Brown with 3. So again, that's the rain game. AJ Green did nothing too. Deshaun Jackson with 4. So rough time at the wide receiver spot. Dennis Pitta with 10 coming out of the semi-retirement. I thought that dude was done. Picked up by the Sioux and gets 10 points. Crazy. So really, you're looking at tight end, 1 running back, and a quarterback, and that's all he needed. I mean, that's where almost all the points came from. Nothing on the bench to speak of. Willie Snead had a pretty good week again, I guess. Maybe could have kept him in there. But yeah, and then you get the Fury. And I will say this, Fury, talk about in-game injuries. Adrian Peterson and Danny Woodhead both hurt, both leave the game with almost nothing. You get 3 points combined. But honestly, you look at the bench, Duke Johnson and Theo Riddick combined for 10. It wouldn't have mattered. So that sucks. Injuries you never want to see for anyone. Will Fuller on the bench for the losing team had 10. Didn't even get to the starters yet because there's not much here. Aaron Rodgers had a rough game, ends up with 20 anyway, but just didn't look good. And again, I don't know if that's Minnesota's defense or what. Brandon Cooks was 6, not very good. Brandon Marshall with 10. Kyle Rudolph with 9, and then kicker and defense get more points from the 17 points for the defense. Outscores everyone on the team except for the quarterback, so you know it's a bad week. Still ended up with 73. It's not horrible, but the Sioux take it relatively easily there. So yeah, that's the recap for the week. There were so many injuries this week that I think you're going to see a big waiver wire push. Again, everything's running smoothly. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the waiver wire order at the bottom of the screen here. Right now, it's Biohazards. This is in order of 1 to 12. Biohazards, Fury, Bullies, Lead Dogs, Bourbonites, Kings, War Pigs, Cartel, Bad Company, Commandos, Untouchables, Fighting Sioux. That's set up in order of record, and then points, and then head-to-head is how that's split up, in case you were wondering. So if you're doing shitty, you're near the top. So, yeah. So keep up on the message board, guys. I know it's hard to get used to this a little bit still. I think things are working well so far. If you have any questions, any problems, any comments, let me know. You can be like Jeff and call me in the middle of the morning. I'm sure it's important. Maybe it's a trade. I don't think so. I'll find out in a minute. Anyway, have a good rest of your week. Play the waiver wire, talk some shit, and I'll see you next time.